Have you ever thought about a motorcycle vacation in Australia? Freedom Biker Tours, along with its affiliate partner in Australia, Ride the World Motorcycle Tours, has a tour program that begins and ends in Sydney, Australia, and takes riders through the southeast region of Australia and the states of New South Wales and Victoria. Riding along the Great Ocean Road National Heritage Route through one-of-a-kind scenic locations on some of the best motorcycle roads in the world, through this amazing and unbelievably scenic coastal region, and experiencing the famous, authentically Australian culture and history. Freedom Biker Tours is the #1 motorcycle tour company in Canada. Your cage-free, worry-free vacation experience. No cars, no buses, just motorcycles. We are as close to all-inclusive as you can get, and safety is our primary concern. You don't need to worry. We take care of everything. So let us do that for you. Hey gang, this is JD from Freedom Biker Tours. I am personally inviting you to join us April the 13th for the 5th event in a series of live stream events on YouTube. The April 13th live stream will showcase our tour program, Ride Australia's Southeast. So join us on Saturday, April the 13th at 5 p.m. Pacific Time for an hour of conversation, questions, and fun looking at our program, Ride Australia's Southeast. Check out Facebook and YouTube for the participant links, and we'll see you there.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the 5th installment in our spring live stream series, where today we're going to talk about riding in Australia. That's an interesting one for many of us because there's a lot of differences that we will cover today. And I'm really looking forward to this one because it's been a long time since I've set foot in Australia. So because we can't find my West Coast partner in crime, my other road captain, I'm going to switch right to bringing on our partner from Ride the World Motorcycle Tours, who's probably going to doing most of the talking today if we mute JD a few times. But anyway, so here is David. How you doing?
G'day from the land down under. This one's going to be an interesting one for a lot of you folk because we're on the other side of the road. We've got the other season. You're talking about the spring series. I'm looking at an autumn series from where I am because we're in autumn. Lots of differences. Even the way we talk. I've had JD telling me, using expressions that are really Australian and seeing if I knew what the answer was. It's a scary one. I actually did know the answers. So the question normally is, what do I ride? I ride a Harley Davidson 2005 Softail Deluxe. And for little bits of fun, I ride a Royal Enfield Himalayan, which is a lot easier to pick up if I have a little accident, like falling on the side when it stops. So I better let you introduce JD.
Well, sounds good. So basically the founder, chief cook and bottle washer of Freedom Biker Tours, who's going to be the main person who's going to be talking a lot with David about this tour. This is a co-branded tour that we're really excited to share with you. So now I'm going to bring in from the BC Okanagan, we'll bring in JD.
Hi guys.
Hi JD.
What's the Australian word for hi guys?
G'day.
G'day. G'day,
G'day.
mate.
G'day, mate.
There you go. G'day.
He's getting better. He'll even get rid of that accent shortly.
I'll work on it, man. I got to get down there. I got to get down there on this tour, and then you can teach me how to have an Australian accent. Okay.
You'll be living in amongst it. As we go into stops along the way, they'll all speak Australian at you, unless they're somebody who's worked part-time for a small visa. But yeah, you're going to have that experience of meeting local folk. And we're supposed to be very friendly, so the stories go.
Well, Australians and Canadians have always had a sort of a what would you call it? A brotherhood, sisterhood, real
symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, they always have, really. You know,
we live off each other.
Yeah, we love each other. We love each other, all these Canadians.
There's a movie called My Life in Ruins. It's from the one who did My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And she's there standing at the bus and she's watching the tourists come towards her and she's identifying what country they're from. And the Canadians are there to go, oh, they're so friendly and nice. Oh, and here's the Australians. They've all got a beer in their hand. So there's a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, it depends on which Canadian you're talking about, man.
Because I'm the only one who's been drinking during these live streams.
Yeah, but it's afternoon for you. You're allowed to.
Yeah.
What does
So,
what
okay,
does
so-
time of day have to do with anything?
Yeah, I'm JD. I'm the, like what Rob says, the chief bottle washer and whatever else with Freedom Biker Tours, founder, concept person, organizer, all that stuff. I'm not really into titles, but that's who I am. So what am I supposed to say now, Rob? What I
Well, you might
ride?
as well just go straight into talk about Freedom Biker Tours, how it got started. Then we'll let David talk about how the two of you have come together with this. Then he can talk about Ride the World Motorcycle Tours, and then we'll let David say how you two guys got connected.
Well, actually, I need to say it because I don't know if David remembers how it happened, because it was actually Walter that sort of was involved in it and that, right? Remember, David?
The Phantom.
Kind of, yeah, down in that trade show down in the States. Anyway, yeah, Freedom Biker Tours, how did it develop and why? Well, I did back in 2013 to 2016, I did a graduate degree, a master's degree in tourism management. And I did my master's thesis, the big research project that you have to do for a year. The title was Understanding Motorcycle Tourism Through a Study of Biker Culture. And I've been a big motorcycle guy my entire life. I'm a Life for Hog member here in Canada. And through that research, there were lots of things that came to light. But a couple of the big ones were that no one was promoting Canada as an international motorcycle touring destination. Nobody. No Canadian owned and operated tour company. And the second thing was, through my friends and just being active in the motorcycle community and culture and with Hog and all that, I realized that, and through the study for the thesis, I realized that some things had been lost. The whole thing about how motorcycling and the Brotherhood, sisterhood thing, how that all started after the Second World War, it kind of got lost after the 60s and the 70s and now into, the 90s and into the 21st century. I saw that those values, I believe that those values, those core values of freedom, brotherhood, sisterhood, authenticity, acceptance, needed to be revived, or I would like to try and revive them. So through the Freedom Biker Tours brand, that's what I'm trying to do, is revive those old school biker culture. So that's in essence how it started.
Cool.
So
before you go too much further down,
you want me to say
see
about how
the
I
bottom
got
of your
involved?
screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. What?
I do, but not yet.
Okay.
Because we actually have something else we can do now. Because we can invite Travis in.
Oh,
Travis is here now. So the West Coast Road Captain
Hey,
and the other one of the other Canadians on this crew to pepper with questions. We're going to let Travis in now. How you doing, Travis?
Not too bad. Travis.
Can you hear us?
Hey, man.
Yeah. Hear me?
We can hear you.
Perfect.
So introduce yourself and talk about your bike.
You look kind of weird because you're on your phone.
Sorry, guys.
That's better.
I just got to not block the camera. My bad. I was busy and didn't realize it was tonight. That was my bad there.
That's cool, but you're live, so feel free to jump in with your introduction and talk about your bike.
I am Travis. I am the West Coast Road Captain, and I ride a 2019 Ultra Limited. Been riding now for pretty much my whole life. I started on dirt bikes and went to street bikes about 14 years ago, and spent most of my time riding around Western Canada.
Cool. So now, next step, JD, before we get on to the connection between you and Ride the World motorcycle tours. Let's get David to talk about Ride the World Motorcycle Tours.
Okay, Ride the World Motorcycle Tours had a very interesting start. The company was registered in November of 2019. And if anyone remembers what happened 4 months later, it came to a grinding halt. But prior to that, where's the experiences come from? There's another company called Ride the World Australia. It's 11 years old. And before that, I had a business partner who we had a thing called detours, where you didn't get lost, you got detoured. Like my wife gets there and she goes, you never get lost, you just get misplaced. And I'm getting to the age now, I'm starting to get in touch with my feminine side and ask people for directions. It's really strange. All of a sudden, you know where you're going. The trouble is you get there and you forget why you're going there. So Ride the World Motorcycle Tours, it's a registered business in Australia. It's got all the insurances and things like that, which we think is really important. It's run by Walter and I. We both ride. Walter's got a Triumph, and you know what I'm riding. We try to get out as often as possible. The trouble is poor little Walter's bike's not playing the game at the moment, so he's not going for rides, but I'm trying to keep ahead of it. Ridden a lot of New South Wales, ridden Victoria, done this ride that we're looking at doing in the southeast. Up through other parts of New South Wales, there's some great roads, and I'm hoping once JD experiences what's like to ride in Australia, he'll be wanting to come back and do some other places. But don't think we can do a Great Barrier Reef and an Ayers Rock in a week. It's too far. They're flying times. Rob knows because he's been to both of them. So
we're not looking at doing it. We are doing this tour next year, David. And
there you go. Well, I'll give you somewhere different if you want, or we'll do the same thing again.
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, if this tour really takes off, which I'm sure it will, maybe we'll do 2, right?
How good's that? I get more reason to go for a ride.
And then we'll do one up the Gold Coast maybe or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah,
right?
You've got a Gold Coast too. You mentioned that the other day.
We have a Gold Coast in Canada?
And wasn't that on your on your Victoria Island too? On your Vancouver Island?
Gulf Islands.
Yeah, I thought there was something that said Gold Coast.
No, not a Gold Coast. No,
okay.
Long Beach.
That's very confusing, but you haven't got a Queen Mary.
No.
That's the other one. That's like I've always got to put Australia after Sydney when I talk to you guys because you've got one in Canada. Anyway, this is enough. We've got a lot of mileage to cover, literally on these maps that are coming up. So,
okay, well then let's kick in right quick. And JD, talk about the connection and how Freedom Biker Tours became connected to Ride the World Motorcycle Tours.
Well, both companies are around about the same age, right? So that was a connection. But how it all happened is Walter, David's business partner, was at a trade show in the United States a couple of years ago now, big trade show called International Powwow. And he ran into a really good friend of mine, somebody that I've known in the industry for years and years and years and years, works for a big branded hotel chain all over the world. And she reached out to me and said, hey, I met a guy at Powwow that I think you want to talk to. And he's looking for a partner, an affiliate in Canada because they want to sell the motorcycle tours in Canada. And she goes, I recommended you and Freedom Biker Tours. So that was it. I reached out to Walter and David, and we started chatting, and the rest is history. We're doing this.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it. They're buying into. They're going to do their best to bring people from Australia up to Canada to do Freedom Biker Tours programs in Canada, and now we also decided to do a program in Australia, and Ride the World Motorcycle Tours is actually going to operate it. They're the operators of this program in Australia that we're going to talk about today. But Freedom Biker Tours is going to be marketing it in North America. And basically it's going to be, okay, come with JD and Freedom Biker Tours to Australia and do this tour. In essence, that's sort of the name of the game. Yeah.
So before we go on to the next segment, I just want to jump into the side chat, and we see we have mostly Carmen and Neville.
Neville's there. Hi, Neville.
Yeah, from Wollongong.
We'll actually be going through there on the ride.
Oh, well, we'll have to
Never
talk
like
about that
standing on the
later.
side of the road and go, wave.
Perfect. So, JD, talk about Freedom Biker Tours, where your passion came from behind it. You talked a little bit about it, but talk about the values and what makes Freedom Biker Tours what you want. And then we'll let David talk a little bit about why people should book tours through the benefits of group rides and stuff like that.
Okay, well, our core corporate values for Freedom Biker Tours are also my personal values: freedom, authenticity, acceptance, and brotherhood, sisterhood. Those are the core values, and I really believe in those things. And especially after the last 4 years or so, I really believe that the world needs a little bit of a reminder that we're all part of the same human culture, and that we need to work together and be together and not try and do all this nasty stuff to each other that's going on in the world right now. So that's really, really fundamental with Freedom Biker Tours, the message that we're trying to convey out there with our tour programs. We are a tour operator, and it's essentially the same sort of thing. We offer full vacation packages. It's the same sort of thing that you would get if you got on a bus tour, except for we ride motorcycles. It's cage free, no cars, no buses, just motorcycles. So, it's the same reason a dog sticks its head out the car window, man. I mean, we all know what it's like because we're all motorcycle guys. We're all bikers. You get to experience the wind, the rain, the sun, the smells, the sights, the sounds, and everything. I mean, you're alive, right? You get it all instead of sitting in a big cage like a car, a truck, or a bus, right? But we do all the same things that you would get on a bus tour vacation package. We do activities, excursions. We go see attractions. There's meals included. Taxes are included. All that stuff. So that's Freedom Biker Tours, and that's what Ride the World Motorcycle Tours does as well. So riding in a group is the safest way to go, especially on a tour like this in Australia. Everybody coming down from North America, odds are pretty good they've never been there before. So riding in a group, David and Walter and the boys from Ride the World, they know where they're going. They're the local guys, right? So it's very safe. If you haven't ridden in a particular region, riding on a group tour with motorcycles is definitely the way to go. The group guide, i.e. David, he sets the pace. So that does allow riders of all different levels of experience to participate, right? We're not running a race here. The tour participants can relax, enjoy the scenery. It's your saddle time. It's your vacation. Why do you want to have your phone on all the time? Be worrying about where your next pee break is, or your next fuel stop is, or the next place you're going to have lunch, or is this the right road, or is that the right road? No, you don't have to worry about that at all. Your phone can stay away until we stop for photo ops, right? So that's another big thing about riding in a group. The motorcycle roads are all hand-picked, whether it be Canada or Australia. I mean, these tour itineraries are designed the coolest roads, right? The most fun motorcycle roads. We all ride. Why would we design an itinerary on a lame-ass road? I mean, we don't want to ride lame-ass roads. Why would we expect people to pay money to ride lame-ass roads, right? We don't. We offer quality accommodations on these tours. You're not staying in flea-bitten little rundown little places. The food and beverage establishments offer good food. They're typically biker friendly in as many cases as we can offer. Like I said, there's attractions and excursions, so you really get to experience the entire region. And we have a support vehicle. So extra luggage, first aid kit, water, soft drinks, snacks are all in the support vehicle, right? So it's an all-inclusive tour, and it's very reliable, very safe, and in essence, it's a worry-free experience. The tour participant can leave everything to us. We are the professionals. This is what we do, right? So there you go. It's close to all-inclusive as you can get. Accommodation taxes are included. The only variable on any tours, whether it be Freedom Biker Tours in Canada or this Australian tour. The only variable are the meals. In Canada, it depends on the itinerary. On this particular one in Australia, breakfast is included daily. There's 1 or 2 lunches. There's a handful of dinners included. Something that's really interesting in Australia that's different than North America is the taxes are included on all included meals, but the gratuities are not, because interestingly enough, in Australia, gratuities are not a thing that's expected. You're not expected to pay a gratuity to the server or bartender or whatever in Australia unless you really want to. It's not a part of their life
Expectations.
Expectations, right? So we offer really good transparency of the pricing and the inclusions of our tours. It's not like, well, okay, you put down a couple $1,000 and then plus, you're up at 30 grand. It's like, no, this is the price. This is what's included. These are the things that are not included, so that if you have to whip out your wallet, you know what it's for, right? So it's really transparent with our pricing, and that's paramount for our brand. We don't want to offer something and then hit everybody with thousands of dollars of add-ons because we didn't tell them up front that that's what they have to do. And that's really about all I have to say, I think. David, right?
You're pretty much
Took
there.
all David's talking points.
I've still got one. The meals. We talked about not all the meals are included. That was something I spoke to JD about, because JD doesn't eat a meal on his own. He actually shares his meals, like lunches and dinners, with his riding partner. Unlike me, I scoff it all. I've got to watch the other expression. I eat it all myself. So it would be unfair if we included lunches and dinners all the time, to my way of thinking, because not everybody eats as much as I do, because they're not as big as I am. And by making that, I think it's a much fairer way of costing it as well, because you're not restricted. I've done some tours where it's alternate drop on the meal. So do I really like that? Well, it was the decision of the person who put the tour together. Where if you've got your own freedom to pick the meals you want, you can do it that way. And you can be the cheapest, the most expensive. That doesn't matter. It's what you have chosen. But it's always got a breakfast. We have to have a breakfast to start. We have a dinner to start with, because we all want to get to know each other. What better way? And the last dinner is so we can reminisce about the wonderful time we've all had together and look forward to the next one, whether Canada or one of the next ones in Australia. So that's where the meals come in, because people might look at and go, what's missing all these lunches and dinners? There is a reason. I'm ready to start on the tour.
Okay, well then let's.
We're halfway through.
Yeah, let's kick it off then, and let's let me go to slide 1, and
that's slide 1. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. So
you got to love Google. It shows every hotel, and including the one we've got. Welcome to Sydney, Australia. This is what it looks like on Google Maps. We're Harbour City. When we were found, it was one of the best harbours in the world for the military, naval folk who found it. When Philip came in, he went, "This is the best harbour in the world." What we do is, on our first day when you arrive, sorry, JD?
I just wanted to talk real quick that this is a 15-day program, okay? The motorcycles that are included in the program are Harley Davidsons and BMWs, okay? And the total kilometers riding is 3,516 kilometers, or for our American friends, is 2,185 miles of down under throttle therapy. So there you go.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say that out loud.
Rob, you said you were going to mute him. Anyway, so this is Sydney. What we're doing the first day you arrive, we're not going to go motorcycling because you have just come off a long flight. Most people will be coming in from Canada or the USA, Europe or wherever, and we're a long way from everywhere. So you need to settle down and just take that first arrival day easy. We'll be meeting you at the airport. That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah.
And the second day, we're doing the same, but we're going to do some little things with you just to get you energetic. There's a bridge climb, so you get to climb on the Sydney Harbour Bridge. After that, we'll walk through the rocks, which is the little word at the top of the map. Then we walk across where the T is for a train, and then to the Royal Botanic Garden and the Opera House. So we're going to look at those sort of things. Then for dinner, we're going on a harbour cruise, which will have the dinner. So you'll get to see Sydney from the harbour. Sydney's a massive city, which we'll find out the third day when we start riding. But the city itself's quite large, but easy to get around. We've got trams and we've got light rail, and we've got trains. So, and walking isn't that hard because everyone follows the rules of the road, like they do stop at a red light so you don't get run over. So it's an easy place to visit. Rob, do you want to move on?
Next slide, please.
Oh, there's an opera house. That was built on the side of an old tram station depot.
So essentially, day 2, you're going to be able to see that.
You will see that. You'll see it close up and from the water. What we're looking at is trying to use the next slide, which is, I think you're doing what I think you're doing. Oh, no. Okay, we started the trip. All right. Oh, okay, so that's the opera house. Next slide's our map, and we're going to start. This is day 3. We pick up the motorbikes. We go out to an outer suburb, and then we come in and we come across the Sydney Harbour Bridge from the north to the south. So you get to experience crossing the Harbour Bridge. Coming down through the southern suburbs of Sydney, and we'll arrive at Loftus. There's a little place, and then we go through the Royal National Park. It is a 60-kilometre road for most of it, 80 kilometres on other bits. There's a high police presence, as it is in all of New South Wales and Victoria, and the ride leader, moi, always lives in fear of losing points on his licence, so he sticks to the speed limit. It's a fun ride. It's a relaxing ride, and it gives you a good opportunity. We've had a bit of hard work getting to here because we've gone through the city, we've got traffic lights, we've got city traffic, but once we start riding through the Royal National Park, it becomes so much easier. At the end of that, we've come to Australia. We've come from the bottom end of the Royal National Park, and we'll go to a little zoo called Symbio, and you get up close and personal with koalas and kangaroos at Symbio. We actually walk around like an open area, and the kangaroos are jumping around all around us. The koalas stay in the trees and try to sleep. From there, we head south and we start looking at a few lookouts, so you get a bit of a view of what the place is like. You'll actually see where Neville lurks from is Wollongong. It's like an inch and a half, 30 off the bottom of the page. And then we end up our first night on the road at Shell Harbour Resort and Convention Centre. It's got some great facilities, so that's why we've chosen that. Day 4, the next slide.
Now, before we go on to that, some of the things you talk about at the beginning before you actually get on the motorcycles, wasn't there like you mentioned seeing the Opera House from the water?
That's at the dinner.
So we got a boat tour involved too?
No, it's over. It's too hard to get to. You can't ride around it. That's the problem. It's stuck on a peninsula, and there's also a security gate, so you can't even get to it. You've got to go in through the security gate, and they won't let you do that. So you'll see the Opera House from the bridge, but hopefully you're watching the traffic, not the scenery at that point, because that's really important.
Traffic is what you're saying.
And
awesome.
Just to confuse everybody, we ride down a bus lane. Because in Australia, in New South Wales, motorcycles can go down bus lanes. And it makes it so much easier. You're not fighting with the cars, and buses are much bigger and they're far more polite.
Well, it's kind of like British Columbia. The high occupancy vehicle lanes in Vancouver are motorcycle friendly.
Yeah, they are.
So we're moving on to the next one. Here we go. Okay, so we've started Shell Harbour, and we're going to go up a famous road called Macquarie Pass. Lots of curves. You take your own pace at that. It's second day on the bike, so you should be a lot more comfortable. And when we get to the top, there's a bit of an iconic store there which serves pies, and appropriately called the Robertson Pie Shop. We stop there, coffee, maybe some pastries or pies, and we come down the Jamberoo Mountain Road. That's another windy one. Coming out to Jamberoo, then we go up to Saddleback Mountain, and that's a climb on the bike. The Harleys you'll know, and the Harleys or BMWs are working because they're pounding it as you go up. From there down to Kiama to see the blowhole, which is a water thing. It's a cave under the water and water comes gushing out the top. It can be really spectacular or dud. It just depends on the weather. We've got no control. You can't drop a coin in the slot and it works. It is nature in action. From there, we head south. We call into a little place called Berry, a little country town. And there's a themed milk bar there, cafe, that's all about cows because it's in the old dairy place. So it's quite a fun place. Heading down, we'll go to the Fleet Air Arm, which Rob knows about. We were having a discussion about that earlier, the Fleet Air Arm Museum. From there, heading further down, a bit of a long run, and we'll end up at East Lynne. It's currently being renovated, so it should be okay when we get there. And it's a quirky little coffee shop, service station, gas station. He has a collection of private Indian motorcycles. But the food is delicious, and the milkshakes are worth trying. And they're really, really good. And that night, we end up at... I've gone blank on where we are. I should know. East Lynne. Oh, we end up... Sorry, guys. I should know this one off by heart.
Mariners on the waterfront.
Yeah, okay. We're in Bateman's Bay at Mariners on the waterfront. Thanks, JD. Nice little one. I'm trying to make sure all the motels have got a swimming pool. So although we are in the late spring, early autumn, you guys are from Northern Hemisphere just coming out of winter, so you might still be interested in going for a swim. We're just relaxing around the pool. The next day, we're back on the road, starting...
Click.
Eventually. There we go. Okay, here's Bateman's Bay coming down from Maruya. We go to a funny little town called Central Tilba. There were actually a guy built the area of Tilba, the towns of Tilba. His sons had a massive argument when he passed away and they couldn't work out what to do. So they split the two Tilbas in half. But between them is Central Tilba. There's a dairy, there's a cheese factory. We can have a look at the window, through the window at it, and you can buy local cheeses and local produce there. We get off the highway. We've been basically on the highway, but we're not talking multi-lane freeway motorways. We're talking a two-lane road. That's what this Princess Highway is all about. Basically a two-lane road. And remember to stay left on all times. Okay, we go through Bermagui. We get down to Bega. We swing around from Bega. We're heading off towards Palmula, which is north of Eden. Great little cafe there, and that'll be our lunch stop. We see a bit of scenery along the way through Bermagui down to Tathra. There's some great little roads. There's a single lane bridge where you got to stop for the traffic to come the other way if it's coming. There'll be enough of us, so we'll just barge through. We keep going further south. We'll go to Eden, and there's a whale museum, and there was a famous whale for them, a killer whale called Tom, who used to round up the other whales and bring them in for the whalers to kill. His skeleton's there. From Eden, we go down, and we've entered the state of Victoria. Up until now, we were in New South Wales. We'll stop at the Khan River Hotel. It's a pub, and they do good pub meals as well. Next slide.
So, quick question.
Sure.
You said the state of Australia, so just one of those Aussie-Canadian differences. You're more like the U.S. where you have states, whereas we have provinces?
I think, well, yeah, your provinces are like a state as well.
Yeah, but you call them
states. We call them
states.
We refer to them as states. Yeah. And we've got 5 states and 2 territories, because we're going to ride through one of the territories later, and there's one we'll be doing on another tour in a few years' time in the Northern Territory, but that's definitely for another time. So we're in Khan River. We're going to shoot off from there, and we're going to go along the southern coastline. We'll stop at Sale for a meal. I'll go through Lakes Entrance because it's very scenic. Sale, we'll stop for lunch and fuel. Keep going. This is a big riding day, and we'll go to Phillip Island. And Phillip Island's where the Grand Prix is held. If you watch MotoGP and you watch Australian version of it, it's at Phillip Island. We can't get onto the track, but we go to the track. You actually can see the track, and you see all the history of it. There's photos and videos and things. That night, we'll go to a pub again to stay. It's right on the water, and that's where we are for that day. There's some other things around there. If we've got time, we can have a look at those. There's the Barron Geese Reserve and things like that. But it's all about the time. This one's a tricky one because it's such a distance.
Yeah.
The next day, Phillip Island, we've got an early start. We're going to go around. We're not going to go to Melbourne. Melbourne, the capital of Victoria, is up further on the map, going further north. Not real need to go there because we're on a motorcycle backroads touring trip, so we'd be going into another city. So from Phillip Island, we shoot around, we go past French Island, down onto the Mornington Peninsula, and we go to Sorrento, and we catch a ferry that takes 40 minutes to go across the mouth of Port Phillip. We go to Queenscliff, disembark there, then we work our way to Torquay, and we'll go to the Surf World Museum. We also then go to, I love this one, Winky Pop, which is on top of Bell's Beach. And Bell's Beach was famous in the movie Point Break. We're heading further north, we're right on the coastline with this one, and we spend the night in Apollo Bay. Along the way, we stop at the Great Ocean Road Memorial. It's an arch, and the explanation of why the Great Ocean Road was built, because there's a reason behind it. It was basically the Australian soldiers came back from the Second World War and built this road in a memorial to their fallen comrades. So it's got history to it as well, besides being a fantastic road. So we're at Apollo Bay, and we'll go to the next day, unless you've got any questions.
No questions yet. Travis, anything?
Oh, good. Anything, Travis?
Travis is just excited.
It sounds like an awesome tour.
Now we're at Apollo Bay, we take off, and today we're still on the Great Ocean Road. We've joined it the day before. Notice the wiggly lines. I was watching you guys with wiggly lines on the BC tour and the Vancouver Island tour, thinking, geez, I feel like I'm at home. So we're in national parks, we're going along, and the special treat for today will be we're stopping first at the 12 Apostles helicopter port and riding the helicopter, taking a helicopter ride for 25 minutes along the coastline up through to the Bay of Martyrs, and then coming back again. Once we get off the helicopters, we go to the lookout, or we have half the groups on the helicopters, the other half will be at the lookout, and we'll just copy over. Then over to Loch Orr Gorge, which you will find out about on the tour. It was a famous ship that ran aground, was shipwrecked. Then we go to Port Campbell. Port Campbell will be for lunch. It's a nice little lunch break. Back on the road, heading for Petersburg. We'll go to London Bridge, which is now called London Arch, because unlike the English one, ours did fall down. It was a formation of the limestone, and it used to be a bridge. It used to have two arches. One of the arches fell down, so now it's referred to as London Arch. But to make it easier, we still call it London Bridge. We also go to the Bay of Martyrs. Continue along, and we end up at a place called Warrnambool. And Warrnambool will be our turnaround point. It's also got a wonderful place called Flagstaff Hill. And at Flagstaff Hill, we go for a night tour of it, and they have a show. And it explains about the shipwrecks along the coastline here, and you get to see one of the treasures that was lost for a long time. There was a peacock, and it was being taken to Melbourne for a World Expo, and it was on the Loch Orr. And when the Loch Orr hit the ground, they lost the peacock. But then they found it after the expo, and it's over at Warrnambool, so you can get to see it. How are we going about this one? Any questions here?
So one thing, going back to the all-inclusiveness when you talked about pricing, this day includes a helicopter tour.
Yes.
As part of the all-inclusive. It's like,
the reason we're doing
the helicopter's cool. Like, you got to know that. That's just what I mean. It's like the value added for a lot of the Freedom Biker Tour offerings. When we talk about all inclusive, there's a lot of things included in the price that don't necessarily get highlighted, and I think this would be a good one.
Because why I've included it, when I did the Grand Canyon, I've done the canyon 3 times. But the last time I did it, the helicopter ride was included. Up until then, I've gone, oh, no, I can't be bothered. And it was the biggest mistake I've made on the previous tours, I discovered. Because it was included, I did it. Because it's included. It makes it nice and simple. Where if it's not included, you might go, oh, no, I'm not really sure.
I don't feel like spending the money. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why we put it in.
Now it's might as well go on it. You've already paid for it.
Exactly. And you'll love it. It's absolutely spectacular.
Yeah.
Okay, where it's a long distance because we're going to basically cross through Victoria and almost exit it. But along the way, Australia has a gold mining history. Everyone knows about the American gold fields and things of 1849. Well, 2 years later, they found gold in Victoria, and that's 1851. So we had a lot of the 49ers leave America and come to Australia and go to a place called Ballarat and Bendigo and around where Sovereign Hill is. Sovereign Hill is like a living museum. The people are dressed in costume. You get to talk to them. You get lots of photos. It's just an experience. It helps you realise that Australia had gold, that we were that sort of thing. And it's when you go to Melbourne another time and compare it to Sydney, you'll see Melbourne's got big wide streets. Besides, there was an engineering fault. They were richer towns. Sydney was built with convict labour. Melbourne had a lot more free settlers. So that's the main difference between those two. But we're at Sovereign Hill. We're going to look at that. Then cross country, and we're going to a little town called Echuca. And that's our trip for that day. And we move on. We're having a day off the bikes in Echuca because there's a lot of things to do. It's also midway. It's always nice to have a bit of a break from the bikes. At Echuca, you'll see a thing called the Murray River running through the centre of it. And then you see a Port of Echuca Discovery Centre and Echuca Wharf. That's the original wharves and area that the trade centre of Echuca was. It was a major port for paddle boats. And there's still paddle boats there. And what we're going to do on this day is ride on a paddle boat and go up to a winery and have lunch. It's something different, something unusual again. There's so many paddle boats. There's lots of houseboats. We won't be staying on a houseboat. A nice place just to relax, take it easy. You're under no pressure to do anything, basically. We're staying at the Mikua, so there's a bit of a stroll into town, or we can ride the bikes in.
JD has a question.
He does.
And he's raising his hand like a good boy.
I am a good boy. Come on.
Yes, me.
Australian wines are freaking awesome. I just had to throw that in there.
We got into trouble with the French because our our sparkling wines were getting too good. So we're not allowed to call them champagne anymore. And they go, no, it has to come from Champagne. So all our sparkling wines are now called sparkling wines, which isn't quite as romantic or as interesting, but absolutely spectacular. The reds, brilliant. The whites, the wines are really, really good. And we go to the winery, get a tasting while we're there. So that's Echuca. That's our day off along the way. And the next day we're going to back on the road. We're staying in Victoria. The Murray River is the border between New South Wales and Victoria. So while we're south of the blue line, we're still in Victoria. We're going to a place called Glenrowan. And there was a naughty Irish boy who used to have incidents with the establishment, particularly the constabulary, and he was referred to as a bush ranger. Now, a bush ranger is an outlaw or a highwayman, depending upon what your background is. He ended up being caught. Glenrowan's where he was caught. He wore an armour suit because he was going to confront the police force. And he had a helmet made of iron, and he had a breastplate and leg plates. But he had a gap in amongst it, and they realised where the gap was. So they shot him there, and he just fell, and he was gone. That was the finish of him. And then they hung him a few months later for being an outlaw. But there's a lot of history there. There's Molly's house where we'll go and have a look and get a bit of an idea of about this history. We head north. We go up to the Murray River. Then we follow it through from Rutherglen over to Albury. And we go to a place called Hilltop and the Etamuka Pub. Now, the Etamuka Pub is a pub. We're not drinking because we're on the bikes. But they do soft drink. They do sodas, soft drink, whatever. You've got food there as well. But the place is quirky. It's designed after a cartoon where this pub had birds with boots on, and there's a truck on the top, and there's a crashed aeroplane. And it's all there at this Hilltop at Etamuka Pub. Then we'll come back to Albury. We're going to try a club meal that night. Really big meals and cheap. I was going to say cheap as chips, but you get more than chips. You get steak. Try the steak there. So we've arrived at Albury, and then tomorrow, mountain time. We're going through Albury. We work our way across to Currayong. Currayong, Man from Snowy River, another movie that you may remember. It's a local legend about this man and he getting the horse that was worth £1,000. It was a thoroughbred mare. From Currayong, we go up to Cancoban for a coffee break, then to Tumatu to see what the Snowy Mountains hydroelectric plant's about. This was built by people after the Second World War. They got people in from Europe who were immigrants, and they built dams and waterways and hydroelectricity. This is where a lot of the power for Sydney comes from. In Australia, we don't have nuclear power plants. Ours are either coal fire or hydro, and this is the hydro one. We then go to a lookout. We're heading to the Kosciuszko National Park. We go to a lookout at Mount Selmel, work our way through, and those wiggly lines, you're looking at 60 kilometres along the road, and now we've got the rangers out to get us if we're speeding, or the police. So it's a windy road, it's narrow, but we're travelling at a comfortable speed. We're in a group. You just keep your eye on the guy in front and you know where you're at, or girl at the front. We go to a place called Jindabyne for our break, and Jindabyne's on the side of a lake. There's some great food outlets there, cafes. There's another pub if we want to have a pub meal. That's all there. We come down, we go through a little town called Dalgety to our last night on this day, to Cooma, and we're planning on having a barbecue there. So we'll cook up a few steaks, sausages, onions, tomatoes, all those things we have on a barbecue. And that's that night. That's something a bit of a different dinner, as it were.
Okay, go ahead, JD. I know you want to say it. Shrimp on the barbie.
Yeah, a Barbie in Australia.
Yeah, that's right. Is that in your book, JD? JD has a book of Australian expressions.
No, it's not a book, man. It's not a book.
Cards.
It's a pack of playing cards
That's
that my fiance gave me about Australian lingo that I've got to practice up before this tour.
And he's been testing me on it as well. And we found that they're correct, or I'm correct.
Stone the crows. Stone the crows.
I don't believe it. Unbelievable. With the shrimp on a barbie, we had prawns. He had to say shrimp because the Americans didn't quite know what a prawn was. So, but you can still have a shrimp on a barbie. I don't care. You can have a yabby on the barbie if you want, because there's yabbies out there as well. And yabbies are small freshwater crayfish that live in the dams. So we have yabbies as well as prawns. Cooma, we're going to we've left the mountains behind us, and Cooma the next day, we travel through the national capital, Canberra, but we're not stopping again. We're going to Mount Ainslie Lookout, so we can have a look over the top of Canberra. If you like roundabouts, you would be in the right city. Canberra is full of roundabouts, full of public servants, which if we go during the day, they'll be at work maybe, or they'll be on one of their normal rostered days off. But from Mount Ainslie, we get a great view over the top. We head north, we pass a lake that is sometimes there and other times not. It floods and then it drains. And when it drains, it becomes a paddock. It's called Lake George. We go to the Big Merino, a celebration of the sheep of Australia. It's this monstrous concrete structure of bloody big sheep. From there we go a wonderful back road through from Taralga, and we're heading for Bathurst. And Bathurst, go past Oberon. Bathurst is the motor racing capital of Australia. It's where Mount Panorama is. We've been to Phillip Island when we were travelling down through Victoria. That's motorcycle GPs. Now we're going to local racing styles. With the circuit, it is a road. It's another thing that was constructed as a public works. This one during the Depression as a road to go up to a lookout. But it's so windy and twisty, it's a racetrack. And it's, if you get a chance, maybe pop onto YouTube and look at some of the Bathurst races, and you'll get an appreciation of what this road's like. We'll be there when it's not a race day, so we'll be able to do a lap of the track, or I mean a lap of the road, because there's not a track that day. We stay to the, I always go in the direction the race goes, which keeps you on the left going on the road, and you climb along go along the main strip, then you start to climb Mount Panorama. Stay to the left. There are no line markers, so it gets really interesting because some people don't go the way the race goes. They go the opposite way. So you come around a corner and there's a surprise sitting in front of you of somebody coming in the other direction. And some of the local folk go for walks along it. and there are people who live in the middle of the thing as well. So it's a really interesting racetrack when you consider other ones around the world. So that's Bath. Oh, we're staying at a nice little motel there where you can walk into town. So the next day is sort of it's an optional day. If you want to stay at Bathurst, do your own thing, have a look around. You're right near the centre of town. Maybe go back up to Mount Panorama Track if you really want to. But we're going through Hill End, which is the New South Wales goldfields. So where we've been through them in Victoria, we're now going to have a look at the New South Wales ones. And a lot of the original houses are still there. And there's a great museum. We head up to Mudgee. We go to a winery that has a man's private British motorcycle museum. Come down from there, head south, take some nice back roads again to Sofala. We'll ride through Sofala. There's not much there, but it's another mining town. It's a little tiny mining town. Then head south to Bathurst, and then we're back to the Bathurst Motor Inn that night again. So we leave our bags there, and we meet up with whoever didn't come for a ride. Yes, Rob?
No, just
oh, good. We're there.
It's kind of an interesting little.
It's different. Route. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I took the Hemi up there one time, and it just the roads are windy and it's easy, and there's very little traffic. It's just a nice. But of course, there is some highway patrol who like to take photographs of you, but that's normal. Okay, Bathurst. We're going to. It's normal. No, yeah. Smile. Don't put the finger. We come take a back road. There's a main highway comes from Bathurst to Sydney, but we're taking the back road through a place called Thorana. Notice those wiggly lines again, and then we work our way through to Lithgow. Lithgow, we come down to Katoomba. Neville's an expert on Katoomba. He knows all about Katoomba. He takes cruise groups up to Katoomba. We go and see the Three Sisters, which is a natural formation of, I think they're limestone. I think they're sandstone, and it looked like three sisters, and there's an Aboriginal story about them, and there's a little sister that's standing next to them. So it's a lot of people have heard of it, and we're in a place called the Blue Mountains. Some people hear about the Blue Mountains. They're called Blue Mountains because from Sydney on a hot day, the eucalyptus oils from the gum trees come up, and the mountains look blue through the eucalyptus oil. Come down through Penrith. We're going to take a nice little back road. There's an old bridge we'll cross, and we return the bikes back to pickup point. From there, we're coming back into town. We'll come back to our hotel, but a different one this time, back out near the airport. Along the way, we'll go to a new Harley dealer. The original Harley importer was Burglar and Simmons, Burglars and Stealers. Then it became Fraser's, and now Fraser's have been replaced by one called Morgan and Wacker. That's their names. I'm not taking the piss. That is really their name. And they've got a new store we'll go in because from what I've seen from riding with other Harley riders, they seem to go to a Harley shop and buy T-shirts. Like 10 times the price of a normal T-shirt, but they all seem to buy them. I don't know. I've got a Victory T-shirt, if that counts, Rob. But that's from another. I've got a Victory, an Indian, and a few Harley shirts. But yeah, and there's all the usual at the Harley shop. Then from there, we come back into town, and we're staying at the Verudu Green Square because it's nice and close to the airport. Lovely hotel, quite quirky. We'll be having our dinner there, our farewell dinner, and we're basically done. The next day, I'll be back at the thing. Walter will be there, and we get to make sure that you're okay getting to the airport or on your way to where you're going. We're done.
Yeah.
The important part.
That's the 35-minute whirlwind run through Southeast Australia. Definitely.
Well, you got to remember it.
Definitely
it goes for an hour. We've got JD. We've got JD, and it goes for an hour, so you got to be quick. The other thing is, as JC said, the thing with the group travel in Australia, it makes it easier because when you come out of a driveway, we go to the left side of the road. You guys go to the right side of the road. And if you're in a group, you actually see the people go ahead of you do that. And it makes it so much easier than, oh, God, I'm on the wrong side of the road. There's cars coming at me. So that's a part of the group one. They're traveling on the other side of the road, traveling at the speed limit. At times, our speed limits are far too low, but that's what they do. And then you'll see a police car sitting there. What did the guy at the BMW ride say the other day? If the cop pulls you over, you're on your own. We'll just wait down the road.
Talking about speed limits and that kind of stuff, we've talked about this on previous live streams and that too. We're not running a race. These people that are spending money to come on this vacation package with us, they need to be able to relax, enjoy. Safety is our primary concern. We're going to follow the speed limits. Our itineraries are mapped out with the speed limits taken into consideration so that the timing is all there, right? And that everybody's safe and has an enjoyable, relaxing time. One of the things that I wanted to mention too about these tour packages is the currency exchange rates. Remember, the Australian dollar is devalued to the Canadian dollar by about, 10 or 12 points?
Yeah.
Something like that. So it's not too bad. But to the American dollar, it's 40 points or so? So, when you're looking at the pricing, these tours are going to be on both the Freedom Biker Tours website and the Ride the World Motorcycle Tours website, probably within the next 3 weeks, by the end of April, maybe, give or take, maybe the first week of May. And when you're looking at the pricing, remember the exchange rates. It's totally in your favor if you're Canadian, and especially if you're an American citizen paying in American dollars, right? Kind of thing. Because these prices are all Australian dollars that you're going to see on the website and other places. It's Australian dollars. So keep that in mind.
You just reminded me of something else. Oh, why the Australian dollar is so low? We made a mistake years ago. We made the dollar note into a coin, and then we floated the currency. And everyone knows coins don't float. That's a joke, guys. It's an Aussie joke, boys. It's a granddad joke. I'm allowed. I'm a granddad.
Oh, man. Bad.
David,
maybe we should switch our tour guide on this tour if he's going to have crappy jokes like that.
Yeah, that's what we do. Sorry, Travis.
Oh, I was just going to say, as a safety thing, we traveled through a lot of areas on your trip. What kind of critters and stuff are you going to see? Animals and stuff? Like, are you going to see kangaroos run out in the road in front of you? Or
Okay, the kangaroos and goannas and other critters that are on the road tend to be there between dawn and dusk. You don't normally get them in the middle of the day. They're pretty rare. So all our traveling is done in the morning, well after dawn, and we're settled down for that evening well before dusk. So when we're traveling, the critters are most likely on the side of the road eating something or just taking it easy because it's fairly warm. We're still at the end of spring, start of autumn here. And the weather difference, because I was waiting for that one as well, New South Wales is warmer than Victoria by about 2 degrees. And we're looking at, I scribbled it down, March, we're a minimum of 18 Celsius, 64 Fahrenheit, drops 4 degrees in April, but that's from the start of March to the end of April. And the maximum's 25 degrees, 77 Fahrenheit. So, and then the other's 23, 73 Fahrenheit. So it's good riding weather. It's not hot. It's not cold. We could get rain because we've just had a massive thing of rain, but hopefully it's worn its rain out at the moment. We'll have some nice dry times. The roads are all surfaced. There's no gravel road, no unpaved roads. Everything's bitumen. So, and they're safe. They're safe roads. We have a lot more barriers than I notice the Americans have got. The ones in the US roads, if there's a cliff, they don't seem to put a barrier up, where we put these bloody monster barriers up. But that's what we do.
That's because there's more of them and they don't mind writing off a few.
Maybe that's it, or maybe they are not as much a nanny state. They might be the land of the free or something, free to die.
Rain is a fact of life for motorcyclists.
It is.
It
was interesting you talking about smells and things. When we're riding through the Royal National Park on that first ride day, because the trees are there and there's gaps in that, and you ride up and down through hills and that, you can actually feel some of the temperature changes and the smells change because it's a national park, and you get the smell of the pine trees and the gum trees. And there's just the smells are coming at you all the time.
That's why we go cage free, because we smell everything, we hear everything, right?
You got it.
That's a similarity out here in BC too. You can feel the waterfalls coming before you get to them.
Yep.
Out here, you smell the cattle farms.
Well, you get stuck behind a cattle truck here and you smell the cattle.
Yeah.
So that's the tour. There's no questions. Everyone seems happy.
I have another comment just for everybody that on this tour program. You know, I hate to use the term limited availability, but it is accurate for this tour program. There are a limited number of spots on this program. So I really encourage anybody that's considering doing this to make their decision sooner rather than later, because we're pretty confident it's going to be a high demand program, because nobody's doing anything like that down in Australia and bringing North Americans over. Most people are coming from Australia and New Zealand over to North America to do tours. We're doing it in reverse. So limited availability. So if you're thinking about doing this, get on it.
On the subject of limited availability, we've also struck a problem where the supplier of the motorcycles we were going to use is closed because maybe COVID, maybe people aren't coming to Australia. So we've located another supplier, but he has a very limited number of Harley Davidsons. He tends to have more BMW GS adventure bikes. Great things to ride. It's not like riding an old trail bike or something. They're mighty comfortable, but they're not a cruiser style. So if you're into cruiser style, you're going to have to get in really quickly because there are only a few of those.
Yeah, that's why we have limited availability, and that's why it's split up between Harleys and BMWs. I mean, the BMWs are good for two-up riding. They've got, what do you call that, top box?
That's it, top box.
They got saddlebags and everything like that, but it's definitely a different type of riding than a large cruiser style, like a street glide or road glide Harley or something like that.
The other thing to remember is we've got a support van. So saddlebags or panniers or whatever you want to call them aren't really that important because everything's in the van. Water's in the van. So I always carry a hydration pack anyway. It's just something I do. But the van's got water and there's snacks and there's all those sort of things in there as well. And I have a feeling we might have the famous Tim Tam biscuits. I don't know if you guys know about Tim Tams. It's a little sandwich biscuit that's chocolate coated and it has chocolate through the center of it. And what you do, the Australian way of doing it is you bite both ends off, you get your coffee, then you suck the coffee through the biscuit. So you get this coffee chocolate flavor and the biscuit collapses and you swallow the biscuit as well. It's something you will experience, JD, and you'll be able to tell your friends about when you get back.
Sounds pretty complicated, man. I don't know what
it's easy. I can do it. It's easy. I can
complicate coffee. Yeah.
Why complicate eating biscuits? But they're Tim Tams. Once you've had a Tim Tam, you'll start looking for Tim Tams. They're an Australian thing.
Yeah.
So
as we start wrapping up, Travis, any last questions?
No, I have nothing for right now anyways.
Yeah.
Oh, and you don't have to eat Vegemite. I don't force you to eat Vegemite while you're here.
No, God, no.
Actually, it's not that bad. I work with some Aussies. They love it. It's actually not that bad.
I had a Vegemite and cheese muffin yesterday. That was yummy.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my bit. No one's lots of background. That's Carmen. I've done my bit.
Yeah. JD, last words?
Nope. Just like I said, it's going to be those will be online within the next few weeks, and the tour dates are the last week of March and the first week of April 2025, so about a year from now. We'll be taking deposits, and then final payment will be due, I think, mid-January or so.
Yep.
A couple of months prior, and the only thing really that's not included are a few meals and airfare. Like we're a tour operator, we're not a travel agent, so airfare, everybody's on their own for airfare. I highly encourage people to, you're coming to Australia, come in early to get acclimatized and check out some stuff, or stay afterwards and, make it a real once in a lifetime bucket list trip?
They can also contact me, and if they're doing a pre or a post or something, I'll give them some ideas. Like they'll get and say, "Oh, well, I'll do it," and they can talk to their however they want to do it. They can do it online or however. What we do need and must have is travel insurance. There has to be travel insurance. That's one of the very important things. And just as a sideline, my wife and I are doing the trip not cage free. We're going to do a car, and we're actually doing the trip. So I'll be doing some posts along the way from 2 weeks' time. So we'll be doing it. So we'll be seeing what one, to make sure everything's where I think it still is, because it's been a while since I've been there. But I'll post along the way, and I think we'll put it up on the Facebook pages about where we are to give you some more ideas of what it looks live.
Great.
Sounds good. Well, thanks everyone for coming. I'll throw up the outro now, and I look forward to, in 2 weeks' time, our final in our live stream series where we're going to talk about Mexico. So everyone have a good night, and we'll talk to you again soon.
I've got a
Right.